Welcome to the North vs. South podcast, where we discuss video games, technology, TV, and movies. This week, we talk about the last 4 episodes of the TV series Loki.
So Josh, I finally managed to watch Loki, and I've got to say I was pretty impressed. I enjoyed all 6 episodes. I thought it was pretty good overall. What are your thoughts?
Ah, good. I'm surprised you said that, because there's definitely a couple of episodes that were a bit slower, but those are actually sort of like my favourite ones, and they were both ones in the sort of like the latter 4 that we're going to talk about today. But yeah, I think it was such a really, it was a really good show. Such a weird show in everything that it was doing. The things that we talked about last time, some of our guesses were wildly wrong, or we just missed some clues that they were leaving behind or whatever. But no, I think it was really good, really enjoyable. I don't think there was a bad episode in the run at all, which, given that there's only 6 episodes, there really shouldn't be.
Which ones did you think were the slow-paced ones then? Which out of the 6?
Episode 3, the one where they're on that
You
moon.
thought that was slow-paced?
Well, yeah, it is a slow-paced episode because they're basically on a train for most of the episode.
I thought for me, like watching that episode was like the comic relief part, where it's just like everything just got really silly.
Oh, yes, it definitely was. And I will say that is my favourite episode, I think, out of the entire series. Something about it, it just conjures up feelings of Firefly. It's quite similar to the first episode of Firefly, but obviously, like compared to a lot of the other action that you might expect from a Marvel film, it was a little bit slow. But it was great seeing Loki on the train. What did he call it? He wasn't drunk. He was full. He was rather full. Yeah,
She's
that's
like,
what
you're
he said.
drunk.
But I really loved that episode. It was it looked spectacular. Obviously, the color palette and everything was just absolutely lovely. Just everything about that episode visually, it was just quite stunning.
What did you think to the last episode?
Do you want to jump all the way to the last episode, or do you want to go through?
Well, because I wanted to say like that was my least favourite of all the episodes.
So the last was your least favourite. How comes?
Well, just generally there was a lot of explanation on like what is what's happening, what's going on, and you're just sitting there and you're like, it was a lot to take in.
Yeah, I see that. I think there was three episodes in the series that had a lot of talking. 1, 4, and 6.
6 had a lot for me. 6 was like there was a lot of, but I understand why.
But it is quite important though, isn't it? Because
yeah, that's the thing.
It's this is the catalyst for everything that's going to happen now. Is cementing lore into the universe. So, previously people are like, they're kind of like guessing this, that, or the other. But this is saying, this is how it was, and this is how. There's still obviously a little bit of speculation, but because obviously the multiverse is now new and it's been unleashed, being able to explain the sacred timeline in a very matter-of-fact way as he was doing, it allows you to ground what we know before we go out into the unknown.
Yeah. This whole series is a setup for that multi-universe war that he was talking about.
Yeah, there was. I've not seen. I've stayed away from this, but there has been leaked photos of the next. I don't know what film it is, but 2 prominent members of 2 films together on the same set.
So do you mean like two film series, like 2 different film characters, like Guardians of the Galaxy and
something like that. So there's two main characters who've been seen on set together. So clearly it's now this is the colliding of all the Marvel things even more than it was before Phase 4 even began.
That's the thing though. Like you knew there was two, like, the part where we're going into spoilers here, but the part where the lady had a choice, the guy, the timekeeper,
What? Yeah, to stab him or not?
and you knew what was going to happen. Like there was two ways you knew that she couldn't give up. Like she's been fighting all of her life to avoid.
Yeah, this is quite literally the only thing she knows. Like you're not gonna turn her around in a single afternoon.
I was on the same thing.
If they'd done a bit of a Beauty and the Beast sort of thing, where she stayed a few days in the castle and there's a lot more, a lot more talking and debate between them, then maybe she could have been brought around. But because she's been on the run for such a long time, she's lived a very, very, very fast-packed life ever since she was, 6 or 10 or 12 or however old children are. She's not going to turn around that quickly, even when presented with, all the quote-unquote facts that she's just been presented with. Her mind is just in the way of, let's do this and see what happens. So, she's very much gung-ho, whereas obviously Loki is a bit more analytical, reading the situation and trying to react to new information. Bit of character growth there from where he failed to do so in the past, maybe.
Yeah, I think he was like, we should really listen to him just in case he is telling us the truth. But she's adamant that he's lying, and then you knew as a viewer like that what they were doing. Like, of course she's gonna stab it, and then that will cause the multi-universe war, and this is how it starts.
I do wonder, the ending of episode 2, I was trying to look it up earlier on, because they showed what happened on the screens, but they didn't really show what happened afterwards and between the end of episode 2 until they broke the timeline. So obviously she dropped all of those reset charges, or I don't know if she did anything to them, but she dropped them onto different points of the timeline. So she dropped them onto Titan. She dropped them onto a whole load of places that you'd recognize them from Marvel movies in the past. Basically changing certain points of phase 1, 2, and 3, creating a whole load of havoc or chaos or whatever. And obviously we did see some time agents going off to fix everything, but what does that mean in phase 4? Looking back at phase 1, 2, and 3, are there going to be some timelines that are different from there?
Iron Man comes back from the dead.
I don't think that's going to happen.
That would be cool.
They really broke things at the end of episode 6, didn't they? So the timelines completely went haywire. So maybe the end of episode 2 was a mild car crash. The end of episode 6 was a super highway pile up, whatever. The order of magnitude difference between the two made the first one seem sort of like almost non-existent. But it's going to be really interesting to see all the effects that these two quite literal time writing events are going to have, not just going forward, but on characters' memories or interpretations of what happened in the past. Are they going to rewrite any parts of the first 3 phases?
I don't think so. I think what they're aiming for is eventually they're gonna have different characters, but from different time reality dimensions. Different
realities, different multiverses.
So that's what I don't think they're gonna change what's previously set, because then
I don't mean they're going to change it. I don't think they're going to go back to Iron Man and change something in Iron Man, but a character may remember the events of Infinity War differently to how we saw it in the film. That's what I mean. So they might talk about, because I think they have done this sort of thing in Doctor Who. You go visit someone and they talk about the great event, the Great Fire of London that happened in like 1955, and you're like, there was no fire in London in 1955. It was 1666, or whenever the big fire was. And it's like little hints of that where characters make reference to things that are just slightly different to how we know them as having watched them on the sacred timeline in the order that we did, as opposed to going back to it now.
The thing is though, they have left that open though, so they could bring back a character. I'm not saying it's a good idea to bring back like loads of characters.
They could bring back a character, but they don't necessarily have to bring it back with the same actor. So obviously we saw Loki being played by something like 30 different actors in episode 5. So you could do that. You could have Tony Stark being portrayed by, the guy who plays Superman. Or, you have Colin Firth in as Iron Man.
It could be an alligator.
Could be an alligator. Could be, or it could be a tiger or something. It's not that they're going to rewrite Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man film, but they could bring in a different version, incorporate more of the cartoon series aspects of the Tony Stark timeline as well. Just different things like that.
Yeah.
Did they answer in this TV series what happens when they reset a world? Because what they said is they drop a reset charge, and then that reset charge puts those things into the void at the end of the world.
Yeah, and that's just where everyone goes.
Right. But they took Loki away. Did they not have to replace Loki? I don't even know the question I'm asking. How do you get from the events of Avengers Endgame, where Loki disappears, to there being a Loki in Thor: The Dark World? Because the TVA agents have taken away the variant. Did the reset charge resurrect the original version of Loki, or I don't know if that was something they ever really answered in this series.
Yes, technically there's no Loki.
There's no Loki, and then on the flip side, where did the variants come from if there's only one sacred timeline?
So
where did Alligator? What world was Alligator Loki in if there was only the one timeline?
Well,
because we've not entered the multiverse yet. There's only one universe, is it not?
So
you understand the question, don't you?
Yeah.
I have no idea what the answer is. I don't get how you can have.
Well, you have to go back to basically. I think it's like the answers are probably in the first episode.
I don't know that they are. I thought originally in the first episode or two that variants were going to be multiple versions of Tom Hiddleston.
Yeah, same.
So it was the one sacred timeline. So you got Tom Hiddleston playing Loki's at various times of him being captured. So they capture him after the first Avengers film. Then they capture him after Thor: The Dark World. Then they capture him at the end of Thor: Ragnarok. But it's all Tom Hiddleston's 616 Loki. But here they're showing Lokis from other timelines, but other timelines don't yet exist. I don't really know.
Well, I don't think he ever said they never did exist in the first place.
Is there a difference between the Marvel 616 and the Sacred Timeline? Are they the same thing, or are they two slightly different expressions of something quite similar?
I do not know.
Because we do have Into the Spider-Verse with all of those extra characters. That's one of those things. I've watched the whole series, and I've started watching it for a second time, and I still haven't really spotted the answer to that question.
The thing is, it's like Endgame, Avengers Endgame. You watch it and you're like, that really makes sense. And then like a few days later, you're like, this and this doesn't really make sense. There's a plot hole. Sometimes it's just the way, the way it is. With it, like time travel, especially time travel or multi-dimensional universes, there's always going to be situations where it's like, technically, if you're say like what we're saying with Loki, it's like if Loki gets taken from the main time stream, then technically there's no Loki to then continue where we've seen him in the main films.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there might be an answer somewhere, some point. It's just one of those things where if you really look deep into it, you're always going to find some sort of flaw. Yeah.
I mean, I kind of get that, but you don't want to think too much about time travel, because if you think about it, it doesn't make sense. There are no laws. There's no real laws of time travel, so inventing them for a TV show, be it Back to the Future or Doctor Who or Hot Tub Time Machine, they're not going to make sense to a human, are they? But
well, the thing is, if they give you the rules, at the first episode they give you the outlet of the rules and what the situation is. You're basing your thoughts on what they've given you as an idea, and then when it doesn't make sense, then it's just one of those things where it's just like there's a plot hole.
The thing is, do you know, actually, we've had... So in Endgame, they gave us the rules of time travel, and then in Loki they've given us the rules for time travel. But the rules for but the rules
Well, it's not really time travel. It's a different multi-universe dimension.
well, but here's the thing. So it's like in Avengers Endgame, that was their view of time travel from their perspective, and now we're getting the view of time travel and multiverse and everything and all of that sort of stuff from the time agents. And then we got a slightly different view at the end, in episode 6 from Kang.
Yeah.
So it's like, actually, there's like different layers of how you can mess around and manipulate with time.
You know what? I think that's true because we get the perspective on the first episode from the what's the company's name?
TBA.
We get their perspective on how someone manages to end up in the main time stream. Their job is to go along and correct it and reset it and take them out and then take them to the end of the end point. But then when we meet Kang, then he gives his like perspective and he says it doesn't really matter. He knows what's going to happen in the future, and you're thinking to yourself, how do you know that then? Why is it written down on this book? And it's like, if you kill me, then I'm going to be here indefinitely. So I'm not really that bothered.
But you know what he meant by that, though? Killing him is going to kill him. It's just going to unleash variants of him. So he is dead. Kang, that we met in the episode 6, he is dead. He's never going to be alive again. But there's going to be a variant like him that will restore balance, like there was in the past. Just as much as there's going to be a variant like him wants to bring death and destruction. So he's definitely dead. He's just saying to Sylvie, not that I'm going to see you again, but you're going to see me again, just in a different form.
See, the thing is, that's it. It's very you have to put your head around it and really take it in, which I do appreciate. When he basically, it was like a good 10 minutes of here's what you've been waiting for, here's the big reveal, and then here's all the explanation to it. But yeah, I was gonna say oh, did you find that, the part when he gets, I can't remember, I think it's like episode 4 or 3. No, it was episode 4 where he gets sent to like some sort of timeout.
The time loop, yeah, with Lady Sith.
I'm on about, when the bit where he gets punched.
Yeah, that's Lady Sith.
Yeah. So that, I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah.
But then in the end, it's like he manages to convince her in the end not to do it, which I found kind of cool.
No, he didn't. No, do you know what? So what was happening? Right, she walked in the room. She said something. She hurt him. She left. That's what happened each time. She walked in, she punched him, she talked to him, she kneed him in the nuts, punched him in the face, walked off. She walked in, he spoke to her, she sort of listened, put her arms on his shoulders, felt a bit of pity, kneed him in the nuts, punched him in the face, walked off. The third time he spoke to her, she walked in, he spoke to her, she listened, then she said something that hurt even more than being punched in the face did. Then she walked off. She still hurt him, but she hurt him with words, and that was more painful than being punched in the face. So she still did the same thing. He didn't manage to break the loop. He just changed how the loop happened.
He got hurt. Yeah.
And you could see that in his face when Mobius comes in through the next door, and he's just defeated. The guy got beat. He got thrown around by the Hulk. He can take a little bit of a beating, but those words stung, especially as he was. This is Loki who is evolving and changing. But it was it was really funny, and it was almost heartbreaking seeing him getting chucked back into it again for the second time.
Yeah. It's like, no.
But it's quite nice because it also, I know it is a different timeline, but it does mean that we might see her again in the next Thor movie or in some other TV show or whatever in Phase 4. Although this happens before Ragnarok, the other 3 of Thor's friends were killed by Ragnarok, and she was the only one who wasn't there, so didn't get killed. So she might be around, and being in this TV series shows that she might be the actress might actually be around and up for being in more movies or TV series going forward. Because there wasn't much of them in the third Thor movie. They basically were on screen for about 20 seconds before they were all killed off. You know who I mean, right?
Yeah.
How did you feel at the end of episode 6?
Oh, well, the actual ending when
it faded to black? How did you feel?
I felt satisfied.
You felt satisfied. What? How did you feel satisfied? What made you feel satisfied?
Well, when I was listening to Kang,
Yeah.
there was a lot of confusion in my head, and then when you see the statue right at the end, I was like, oh, I get it now.
What did you get?
He was telling the truth. It's like, if you kill me, I'm gonna be indefinite. And then the part that was like, oh, okay. Just before that was when they were like, who is this guy? They were like, who's this guy?
So how did you read that scene? How did you read it?
I was like, first I was like, oh, okay, so now he's in another universe somewhere, like multi-universe dimension, and now this other guy looks like to be the Khan is some sort of seen as a good figure. So I'm guessing for a statue, they made a statue of him. So I'm like, okay, in this, like you said, like he could be a bad guy or he could be a good guy. So it looks like maybe he's a good guy. Who knows? If they're making a statue of him. And in that particular mini universe, they didn't know who he was. So in this universe, they do. The people. So you have to wait and see. But yeah, I was quite satisfied with all of it. Like,
see, I wasn't satisfied.
Really?
Yeah, and I don't think you're supposed to be satisfied. I feel like I left the series with more questions than I had before, and very few answers for the questions I had previously. But I feel like that's on purpose. Like, they want to set up for Doctor Strange. You know, I don't know what other films are coming out that might be related to the multiverse. Maybe the Spider-Man film, if they bring multiverse into the real Tom Holland's version of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like on purpose they were leaving it all up in the air. Like, we never got to learn who Renslayer was. They've left that for season 2 because she seemed to be a believer in the Timekeepers, yet she didn't know what they actually were doing.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that to you. It's like she was very devoted, and she kind of knew.
But she was as much of as a seeker as anyone else might have been. You know, she didn't actually know the answers, but yeah, you're right. She was very devoted.
She knew she was a variant though.
And I wonder how that came to be. Did she learn that they were all variants when she sort of like rose to that ranking, or did she work it out and then kind of beat her way to the top and remove the people above her?
But she was one of the ones that was hunting down I forgot her name, Sylvie. She was the one who tried to get her.
Well, yeah. She arrested her in the first instance,
and then she escaped.
I wonder how long she's been around, because she's an Earth variant as well, because she was a teacher.
Yes, though, like, it doesn't make any sense, because when she captured what's her name? Sorry,
Sylvie.
When she captured Sylvie was a little girl, and then in the flashback you see the I'm not very good with the names. Sorry, the Renslayer. She seemed young, but then there's not really much of a difference between what she.
But there's no. Yeah, but they're not. They are the time variants. The timelines don't run in sync.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I think in episode 2, Mobius says time passes differently in TVA than it does anywhere else.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, something I thought about on my second watch through as well is like, they showed the whole city outside of the time variants, but who lives out there? It's the same question I have about the Star Wars. Who lives in Star Wars outside of the Jedis and the Siths? Like, it feels like a universe with no actual population. The TVA, it showed this whole city, but it didn't show anyone who lived in there. You just saw some vehicles flying around and the 10 people that work at the TVA. Yeah,
it's like you've got a massive city. Why do they need to be there? Like, if you're just operating.
Yeah, is there a whole population of people who live outside time, or is that just an illusion casting for the people who do work at the TVA, and it's just kind of keeping them in their own sort of mind prison sort of thing?
Well, you got to think, like, how long has the TVA been going? I can't remember if they said if it's been going for like thousands of years, but you imagine if people have been reproducing. Maybe they've had
in TVA.
Yeah, and they got their own families and stuff. But then, like, it's kind of weird then. But how does that work? So then time moves differently. So if you're a baby, then are you a baby for life, like forever?
Yeah, I think that's one of those things that we maybe don't think about too much. Um, yeah, I suspect it might be more of one of those sort of like illusion casting sort of things. That whole city outside the window, maybe that doesn't actually exist, or maybe there's just that many people working in the TVA, and that's actually just all one big giant office complex sort of thing.
It looked big to me. It looked like there was a lot of
Yeah, it looks like the inside of Portal 2, if you've ever played Portal 2,
yeah.
where they keep going deeper and deeper into the earth. It looks like you're outside, but you're still actually inside. You're just like 10 kilometers deep at that point. Maybe it's something like that. That's actually something I was thinking about quite a lot. TVA, it reminds me of Portal 2 and the game Control.
Yeah.
Just with how there's a lot of propaganda everywhere, and there's a lot of blank interior spaces and lots of outside spaces that feel like inside spaces. It would be interesting if they made a video game out of it. What that would feel like. Thinking with portals.
Yeah, that would be a good idea. Like, you could jump. I don't know what kind of. Yeah, it'll be like a beat 'em up. Like you go around and you clear all the enemies out and then jump to another. I don't think it'll be that good, mate.
No, it's not going to be good. So what do you think? What do you think's next? So Loki is returning in series 2. He's not going to be in phase 4 because phase 4 Loki is dead. Is that what we're thinking, or is this Loki going to make his way into Thor: Love and Thunder?
All I hope is that they don't do like Black Widow and make a prequel.
Don't say anything. I've not seen it, and we're not spoiling Black Widow in this podcast.
I just wish they don't do Black Widow.
Don't say anything.
I didn't say anything.
Don't say anything.
Nothing. But yeah. The thing that I like about this series is that they're looking forward. There's no like it's giving you stuff to think about, and it's giving you expectations. Where I think like the last few movies, for me personally, it's just been like, oh, here's a bunch of stuff and we got to do this. Where this one is like a deep dive of thinking about and thinking. It's basically doing a smart way of building something, building another giant movie franchise.
Yeah, how different is this going to feel to I don't like calling it phase 1, 2, 3, and 4. It's like we need new.
Only fanboys do that, mate. I don't know what is. I'm just taking each. To be honest, I haven't seen what's the one with the sitcom thing?
WandaVision. But hang on a second. That's a different thing. Phase 1, 2, and 3 are called Phase 1, 2, and 3. That's Marvel. It's not fanboys. That's Marvel's official marketing term.
Yes, that's right. But for an average person, when you look at it, you're just like, oh, here's the next film.
No. Because Phase 1, 2, and 3 culminate at. It's all 3 phases culminate at Endgame. They're all setting up the stories for the Infinity Stones.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's clunky saying phase 1, 2, 3 and then saying phase 4, 5, and 6. You need like like BC and AD. You need like before Endgame. You need that sort of like to differentiate between 1, 2, 3, and 4, because it's going to be very different. The types of films that are coming out in phase 4 are very different to the ones that came out before. And that's fine. And, you can think about them in their individual place, or you can think about them as a whole. But the whole that you think about them in is going to be within those 2 brackets, 1, 2, and 3, or 4 and beyond. I do think, though, you need to watch WandaVision.
Really?
Yeah, because it is going to tie it. WandaVision and Loki are going to tie into more of the films than potentially Falcon and the Winter Soldier will.
See, I haven't seen Winter Soldier. I forgot. To be honest,
no, that's fine.
I just forgot that they even I forgot they even existed.
I mean, in terms of like the multiverse and everything like that, WandaVision sets up some characters there as well. I think Falcon and the Winter Soldier, whilst they will probably have a coming out the back end of that TV series, or those characters might appear in other films, I don't think you really need to watch the series to kind of get what happened, because it's kind of the last scene between Captain America and the Falcon sort of like expanded over 6 hours, so you could catch up quite quickly without watching the series, probably. I think.
Yeah, no, I probably, I don't know. I think I just skip the Falcon. And you keep saying about WandaVision, but I just, how many episodes are there of WandaVision? 6, like the others.
It's something like 6 or 7. It's not fantastically. It's not a huge amount.
Yeah, I've got like, I could watch them, but I just couldn't get into the first episode. I just
The first episode, ignore the first episode. You're having the same problem everyone else did, which is fine. It all starts happening in episode 3. So watch episode 2, watch episode 3, and then it will suddenly click in. But there's 3 characters in there, I think, that sort of appear, and they're definitely going to be in a lot more stuff going forward. Whereas Falcon and the Winter Soldier, well, it's the same 2 characters that we already know.
Yeah, do we know what the next film's gonna be though?
I don't know actually. Thor: Love and Thunder, May 2022. Black
That's a long way
Panther,
away.
July 2022. I know, that's what it feels like. Ant-Man and the Wasp, 2023. It
Ant-Man
feels like
and the
there's not
Wasp?
much.
Is it? Oh, they haven't got a title yet.
No, they do. Quantumania.
Oh, sorry.
I think Ant-Man and the Wasp is possibly the next one featuring the multiverse, because obviously it's got that whole time travel, quantum mechanics, and everything.
So, I'm so sorry, but I haven't watched any of the Ant-Man films.
I mean, I know a lot of people haven't. The first one was really good. The second one was important for Endgame, but they explain it in Endgame, and they didn't have the same director, I think, so it wasn't.
Okay.
It didn't stand up quite as well to the first film. And then they introduced a character who kind of didn't go anywhere because of the blip, so I don't know if that character's coming back or not.
You said something about the background to Loki. Some sort of like there's an episodes. They produced some episodes where you can watch behind the scenes.
The Marvels Assembled. Yep.
Yeah.
So it's basically the behind the scenes like you'd get on a DVD. They've done one for each of their TV series. We watched the WandaVision one. That was pretty good. Some of it's technical. How they filmed some bits. Some of it was it's the usual stuff. Showing off the stuff that the crew were doing. And in this case, it was going through a little bit more some of the character development through the series, where they got their source material from, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because I noticed they did one. I think they did one for the Mandalorian.
Possibly. It would probably be called something different. Obviously, Marvel Assembled is riffing on the Avengers Assembled. But yeah, if you like your behind the scenes sort of stuff, then those episodes are there as well. Me being into sound and editing and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, it's it's a wet dream for me. So
when do you think season 2 is going to come out then for Loki?
This I don't know. Because I was like, are they going to? They've got to release some films. And are they going to release Loki like next year in 2022, regardless of what films are in progress, or are they going to wait a couple of years and have it come out in like 2023 or something? I don't know what the whisperings are at the moment. I've not really looked, but
to my understanding, so Black Widow should have came out last year. Should have came out. I think they were planning like July 2020.
Yeah, it should have been summer last year.
And then they were like, right, we'll try it around about October, November-ish time. And then even that still got delayed. And now, when did it get released? I think it got released in like
about a month ago, 2 months ago.
Yeah.
Because it's still on Premier Access, I think.
So, yeah. So I think we said in the previous podcast about Disney having the ability to they got Disney Plus now, and you got the streaming service, so they can put all of their TV, the content that they're making for the TV on there. But I don't know if, like, because of the hold up of the movie situations, it's kind of like pushed everything back for the movies.
Yeah, I'm not sure. What I do know is that the TV series was shown out of order because of the pandemic. So it was supposed to be Falcon and the Winter Soldier, WandaVision, and then Loki. Whereas what actually happened was WandaVision showed first, then they had Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But I think that was basically because WandaVision was more ready earlier. I think they'd finished all of the filming and just had to do post production, whereas Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Falcon, I can't say it. The Falcon TV series.
The Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
I keep want to say shoulder, but it's not that. Yeah, I think they still have some more filming to do or something. So that got a little bit delayed, or it needed more CGI, and that was delayed or something. So they were sort of out of order. But how that affects the films, I don't really know. I feel like some films might have been waiting for Loki, because obviously what happened at the end of Loki will impact some of the films. But maybe the next two films aren't affected by the multiverse. It's not until the Ant-Man and the Wasp that we really start to see the effects of Loki.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. It'll be interesting.
It depends, like, because we saw Titan was one of the planets that we saw that was hit with a reset charge. The planet in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, that was the whole, the God planet, where the brain inside the whole thing, that was one of them. So it's possible that if they were affected, maybe we'll see some kind of repercussions in Thor Love and Thunder. Because I think he's still with the Guardians in Love and Thunder, isn't he?
Yeah.
Or at least we might see a couple of scenes where they drop him off on somewhere. It's hard to say, isn't it? Because I try not to read too much in advance because I don't want to spoil anything. But then by not reading anything, you don't know what's coming up. So
yeah, and you kind of, when something does happen, you're like, oh, okay, I didn't realize we're at that point.
Yeah.
Overall, I gotta say it was a good series. 6 episodes, goes by pretty quick. That's the only unfortunate thing where, for me, I'm more used to, like, I've not really been, the only series I've really appreciated it being so short is probably like Better Call Saul. There's only like 10 episodes per season.
Yeah.
I'm more used to like 25 episodes, but for 6 episodes it is nice and sweet, and at least then you know that they're gonna, like, the money they're putting towards it, because it's only 6 episodes, you're gonna get a pretty good experience watching it.
They're not wasting time either.
That's the thing.
Where you got 6 hours versus 22 hours, so they're not wasting time.
Is it 6 hours though? It's around about.
Yeah, it's not 6 hours. It's about 4 hours if you take away the credits at the end. The episodes are somewhere between 40 to an hour long, and that's with 10 minutes of credits. So yeah, it's about 4 hours of content, compared to 22 45-minute episodes. It's actually even less time. They're not wasting a single minute. Everything, all the pauses and everything there, they're fully intentional. Yeah. It left me wanting more. I could have done with 2 more episodes maybe. It probably didn't need another 2 episodes, but I wanted there to be, which is rare. Usually you're like, oh, come on, can we just get to the series finale already? You know what they say, always leave the audience wanting more, and you're in good stead.
The problem with that though is you get to a situation like, I watch Walking Dead, some of the later seasons, where they have to pan out the episodes where it's like, oh, this week this person's going to go on their little adventure and they're going to do this and that, and it doesn't really have any reference to the plot or moving it forward. So I kind of like, if there was more episodes and they weren't going to push the plot forward, then I'll be like, this is kind of weak. Like, each episode pushed the plot forward.
Yeah. Yeah,
and that's what I liked.
the only story I would have liked to have had an episode more, which they've left for season 2, is Renslade. I would have liked to have known more of her story, but they've chosen to leave that for season 2.
Yeah,
Like I said, they've left me wanting, they've left
more.
me wishing that there was more Loki, which is better than wishing there was less.
Yeah, and that's the art of. I think they've hit the sweet. And I think it's like the Mandalorian series is only like 6 episodes as well, if I remember correctly.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, maybe I should watch it.
Yeah, you definitely. I've just.
I'm not really. Remember, I'm not a huge Star Wars fan. So.
Yeah, but it's not.
I know.
The thing. What you said earlier about Star Wars. I think you referenced Star Wars about having the cities and stuff, and you don't really know what's going on.
Yeah, this is the sort of story where they bring those in.
Yeah, you see more of that. You see, you get an understanding of in the movies, and you get like just a general like a much bigger scope, and then in the Mandalorian TV series, it's just such a more grounded story and the stuff that's going around them. It's not really rushed.
Yeah.
It's
I
well
know.
developed.
I know. I think for me is I've enjoyed a little bit of Star Wars, but I found the main part of Star Wars to be quite disappointing.
Yeah,
I actually watched. What did I watch recently? I feel like I watched one of the films quite recently. No, I didn't. I watched a video essay on how the droids are basically slaves and how Star Wars is a really bad universe for basically eliminating human slavery, but then inventing robotic slaves, and it's really badly demonstrated in the film Solo. That was interesting to watch, and it may colour your perception of Star Wars for the rest of time. So I'd recommend watching it, but it may affect how you feel going forward.
I know what you're saying. If you don't want to discuss it, that's fine. But to me, like, there are people in Japan that kind of do that stuff. There's a guy that
do what stuff?
They have a romantic relationship with the.
I'm not talking about that. I'm not. I mean, that is part of it. But what I mean is they replace droids in the Star Wars universe serve humans, or they serve sentient beings, and they do all the menial jobs, and I don't think they get paid. They just do the work. Sometimes they get they're sold like slaves. They get their minds wiped. In Solo, there's this whole thing about droids having rights and being set free, and then finally the one droid, she, the droid who basically flies the Millennium Falcon in that film, she wants like droid independence and everything, and then at the end of the film, she's implanted into the ship's sort of like mainframe, and she's basically the equivalent of a human in a vegetative state, forever trapped inside a machine, which is like the very opposite of what she actually wanted and was fighting for in the film and before the film. So yeah, Star Wars is an interesting universe when you look at it from that perspective.
All I remember.
Do you want me to send you?
I'll give it a watch. All I remember is Lando having.
I'll send it to you. Yeah, and I'll put it in the I'll link it for anyone listening to find.
All I remember is Lando having some sort of weird crush on this robot.
It's not a crush on the robot. That's part of the thing, isn't it? It's like you can have a relationship, a friendly relationship with the droid. Like you saw Luke and R2-D2. They have a real connection and a bond, like you would a human, and yet they're still treated like unpaid servants, or more commonly known as slaves.
Yeah, it's an interesting debate. Like, if you if you want to get into discussion and theory and situations like that, you're probably looking towards looking at Star Trek, where Star Trek deal with stuff like that. They've dealt with do androids have rights? Do holograms have rights? There was an episode where a hologram, he released a novel, and he published it. He published this novel, and unfortunately, like, the novel had some sort of, like, it had some flaws. I think he was like referencing the crew in his novel, and the crew wasn't very happy, so they were like, you need to take this back, people think we're monsters. So he's like, oh, okay, I'm gonna withdraw my my release and ask everyone to give back their copies. But then the publisher who was publishing it said, well, technically you're not human, so you don't have any rights, you're just a hologram, so I can do what I want.
Yeah.
So then it had to go to like this big massive court ruling, and then they decided, like, because he has a name and he demonstrates that he can give independent thought, then he can have the same rights as a human. So he was allowed to have his novel retrieved back and re-released again. So there is content like that, like because then what happens in the episode where there's like, because there's this hologram wins this case, then other holograms look at this and say, well, why don't I get independence? So it's like, it's this big thing. We're like,
Uprising
well,
of a
yeah.
hologram. For someone who doesn't know anything about Star Trek, what's a hologram in Star Trek?
So it's just
I know
just
what
photons.
a hologram is,
just,
but
they're just
what...
photons. They're just, it's like VR.
Right, but what? No, I know, but what does a hologram in Star Trek symbolize?
So
like, I know
this
what a
this hologram is just he was emergency medical.
Is it like the ship's? Is it like the ship's?
Yeah,
computer?
it's just a computer. It's just a computer. And it has a database, like you can program it to contain. This particular hologram had the whole medical history of like the most famous doctors ever, so it had all of their knowledge, medical journals and everything. So then when it came to treat the patient, they would know like what the best thing to do. But you could program it to contain like anything, like be the best at sports or. But then what happened was he expanded his program, so then it allowed him to learn and become more human. And that's always been a concept in Star Trek. It starts with like Spock. Like Spock is half human. He's half Vulcan and half human, and he aspires to be human. And you got, remember, if you know Data was an android, and he's inspired to be a human. So they've Star Trek is pretty much well known for dealing with concepts like that. But yeah, Star Wars, it just treat them like trash.
Yep.
But The Mandalorian, good series, nice and sweet. I think it's 6 episodes, very similar to Loki. There's a lot of like gives you like the background, what's going on, and then there's an exciting episode like episode 3 where they go on like a massive adventure and they start doing like heist stuff, and very similar to like Firefly as well.
Yeah, so there's 8 episodes per
is
season.
it 8? Sorry.
So, yeah, 8 in each. Well, that's still not, they're 40 minutes, 33 minutes. There's going to be like 5 or 10 minutes of trailers, so that's not, I could probably watch season 1 tomorrow.
Yeah. Definitely recommend it. But
yeah, I might think about it. I unfortunately I have seen one scene which is a massive spoiler.
Yeah, well, you can't.
Which is
you can't avoid it.
The bit on the boat where someone steps off of it, because that's in that video essay.
Oh, but that's not the spoiler I was thinking of.
Just on that, there is.
That's good.
Yeah, I know, but there's still a spoiler for the Mandalorian in that video essay. Even though I'm probably the last person to watch the Mandalorian.
Well, there's 2 seasons, don't forget. So you're like catching up to do. And Michael Bihn's in it from Terminator, so I was quite happy. The guy that plays Carl Reese.
I totally know who
he's
that
in
is.
Aliens.
Don't watch Aliens. I've seen Terminators, but I'm not
I don't
Aliens.
want. But yeah, pretty much wrap up of Loki. Definitely recommend it if you can watch it, if you've got a subscription to Disney Plus.
Yeah, so Loki, great TV show, executed well. Like we said, not too many episodes. It's left us wanting more, which means, really looking forward to how it's gonna, how things are gonna show up in different films, or in season 2 of Loki. And the best thing was watching in episode 3, the one where they are on the train, and just realizing how many British people there are in this film. And then when you realize that the director, she's British as well, and so many different characters and people working on the TV series were British, so it must have felt like a real British invasion. For the Americans, I kind of feel sorry for them. Like the amount of Americans that might not have understood the slightly northern or the Midlandish accent that Sylvie had, I think might be quite funny. But I did quite enjoy that in the whole thing. So, thank you for listening to this podcast. Please feel free to leave a comment, a like, a review, or even subscribe or follow us in your podcast app. Goodbye.